Here are the top stories for today, November 25, 2021. Strong words from the Philippine Defense Chief as he asserts that the Ayungin Shoal is part of Manila's exclusive economic zone, slamming China's latest remarks urging the Philippines to remove its ship from these waters. The Health Department says no serious adverse events have so far been reported from the rollout of COVID-19 booster jabs as the Philippines steps up measures to contain infections which have been seeing a decline for the past days. No learner left behind, the Department of Education is sparing no effort in addressing issues hounding basic education following a World Bank report showing that most Filipino children are unable to read by the age of 10. And the police force will not hit the brakes on its efforts to go after drug-linked candidates even as presidential bets undergo voluntary drug tests. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana is not mincing his words in asserting the country's sovereignty over the Ayungin Shoal in the West Philippine Sea. He said it is actually China who is trespassing in these waters. In a Facebook post on Thursday, Lorenzana maintains that the Ayungin Shoal lies within Manila's exclusive economic zone based on the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, which China ratified. Lorenzana's remark came after Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian said that the Philippines must remove its ship BRP Sierra Madre in the Ayungin Shoal. The defense chief also insisted that China's territorial claim has no historic or legal basis as ruled by the 2016 arbitral award and that it must abide by the international obligations it is part of. This comes in the wake of Manila's resupply mission to troops at the Ayungin Shoal, a move which Beijing said was part of a provisional arrangement and out of humanitarian considerations. The Foreign Affairs Department, meanwhile, called Beijing's latest remarks as mere wolf warrior release. Moreover, National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon Jr. assures that the government is working to enhance stations in the area and it's doing its best to protect resources in the West Philippine Sea.
Kaya pag tayo ginugulo dyan ay maaaring matrigger ang di inasahang gera, liit. Kaya papasisyon siyang Mutual Defense Treaty dahil pagdating public vessels and aircrafts and vessels in our territory, then the mutual will come into force.
For Malacanang, the request of the International Criminal Court for proof on the deaths linked to the Philippine government's drug war only shows that it is a court of last resort. ICC prosecutor Karim Khan earlier said his office will ask the Philippine government to provide substantiating information into the alleged crimes against humanity related to the anti-illegal drugs campaign. Cabinet Secretary and acting presidential spokesperson Carlo Nograles said the palace has yet to receive a formal request from the ICC. He also reiterated the palace's position that the ICC has no jurisdiction to probe the administration's crackdown on illegal drugs. Amid reports of spurious job offers sent through text messages, the Department of Justice reminds the public to always be cautious with online dealings. A fraudulent job posting will either ask the applicant to pay for application or training fees or promise high wages. It would also require the applicant to answer an extensive personal information questionnaire that would then be used by the scammers to commit identity theft. Earlier this week, the National Privacy Commission summoned data protection officers of telecommunication companies, online shopping platforms, and some banks to report on their spam prevention measures. The NPC also urges them to come up with further steps to combat the recent surge of scam texts. In line with the upcoming National Vaccination Day program, all public and private sector employees who will be vaccinated during the Bayanihan Bakunahan event will be exempted from work. President Rodrigo Duterte signed Proclamation number 1253, which formally declares November 29 to December 1 as Bayanihan Bakunahan National COVID-19 Vaccination Days. Malacanang earlier announced that November 29 and December 1 are considered special working days, while only November 30 is a regular holiday for the commemoration of Andres Bonifacio's birth anniversary. The Bayanihan Bakunahan program aims to inoculate 15 million Filipinos across 16 regions outside Metro Manila. Meanwhile, around 100,000 volunteers are needed in the upcoming nationwide vaccination event. DILG Secretary Eduardo Año said state or private colleges and universities, especially those that are offering medical and nursing courses, should mobilize doctors, nurses, and nursing students to assist LGUs during the event. Volunteers can also sign up through the National Volunteer Registration Portal. The government has so far reported 0 serious adverse events since the rollout of COVID-19 booster shots. Health Secretary Francisco Duque said only the pain from injection was the most commonly recorded reaction of vaccinees. Duque said the booster jabs will give a recipient the same side effects as the primary doses. He also emphasized the importance of getting the primary series or the first and second doses before expanding the booster shots vaccination to other sectors. At the moment, only the healthcare workers, senior citizens, and persons with immunocompromised comorbidities are allowed to take the COVID-19 booster shots. Dr. Ted Herbosa of the National Task Force Against COVID-19 is pushing for a further studies on COVID-19 vaccines on kids aged 5 to 11 years old. In a Laging Handa briefing, Herbosa said children carrying a dreaded coronavirus usually have very mild symptoms such as cough and fever. While the decision is still on the table, he said the country's Food and Drug Administration is expecting the application of Pfizer for emergency use authorization of its vaccine for the 5 to 11-year-old age bracket. Once approved, children below 11 years old will be administered with 2 doses but will get a much lower concentration of mRNA nanoparticles compared to adults and teenagers. Herbosa also encouraged parents to choose open areas for their kids, such as parks, instead of going to malls or other closed areas. Still ahead, the Department of Education says it continues to address challenges in basic education even before the start of the pandemic. The Finance Department is luring Japanese investors to the country's brightening economic prospects. Details ahead. Keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
More local government units are coming with rewards to further entice their constituents to get vaccinated against COVID-19. The details from Marita Mowahe.
In Sorsogon, the top 20 villages with the highest COVID-19 vaccination rate concerning population will receive 1 million pesos each. The incentive is part of the local government's strategy to further ramp up the vaccination rate in their province. All the willing barangays will be given the discretion on how they will use their cash prize. the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, relief aid will be given to senior citizens, persons with disabilities, and people with comorbidities who will line up to get jobs on the upcoming National Vaccination Day. The relief aid may come in a form of cash or kind. And in a witty Facebook post, Albay 2nd District Representative Joey Sarte Salceda imposes a no-vax, no-ninong policy among his inaanaks. Many of his followers find it amusing as the lawmakers find ways to encourage everyone to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Albay has recently lifted its mandatory quarantine requirement for fully vaccinated travelers. It also eases its restrictions under the Alert Level 2. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Muaje.
The Department of Education maintains that it is addressing the challenges on the quality of education nationwide. This comes as a World Bank report said that 90% of children in the Philippines aged 10 years old suffer from learning poverty or cannot read and understand a simple story. In a statement, the DepEd emphasized that it has been proactively dealing with the problem for a long time. Before the pandemic, it launched the Bawat Bata Bumasa or 3Bs initiative nationwide to increase reading proficiency among learners. DepEd's Every Child a Reader program also integrates initiatives on early language, literacy, and numeracy program, mother tongue-based multilingual education, and pedagogical retooling in mathematics, languages, and science. It is also rolling out teacher professional development through the Sulong Edukalidad campaign. The DepEd is preparing its participation in the upcoming international assessments of its efforts in improving basic education in the country. The Department of Labor and Employment released some 1.7 million pesos in livelihood aid to fishermen displaced and affected by Typhoon Julina in Dimasalang, Masbate. The assistance made available under the Dole Integrated Livelihood Program will be used to purchase kabuhayan starter kits or fishing equipment. It will benefit at least 66 affected local fishermen from different barangays of Dimasalang. Dole 5 Regional Director Maria Zenaida Angara Campita said the agency is continuously extending help and support to workers affected by typhoons and those who are suffering from COVID-19. Dole Bicol is targeting to help another fishing community in Kawayan, Masbate affected by the typhoon and pandemic through a project dubbed Fish Tapa Production. And in eastern Samar, at least 133 houses were turned over to families badly hit by Super Typhoon Yolanda in Giwan Town, according to the Department of Social Welfare and Development. These homes are part of DSWD's Modified Core Shelter Assistance Project for families who were left completely homeless during Typhoon Yolanda. The families were given transitional shelters in 2014 by the International Organization for Migration, but the shelters were damaged by Typhoon Ruby a year later. The construction of concrete houses started in 2016 and became fully completed on November 17, 2021. Yolanda made its first landfall in Giwan on November 8, 2013 and flattened the town with the winds almost hitting 230 kilometers per hour. Hog raisers in Negros Oriental reassured the public there is enough pork in the market even with the increase in demand due to the coming Christmas holidays. Dr. Alfonso Tundag, quarantine officer and the head of the Provincial Bureau of Animal Industry, said the reassurance came even as hog raisers continue to supply other provinces with live pigs. Hog raisers are shipping 25,000 to 35,000 heads of pigs out of the province per month. Negros Oriental has been supplying hogs to other areas as some provinces are still grappling with the effects of African swine fever or ASF. Negros Oriental and the rest of Central Visayas remain ASF-free, with restrictions still in place against the entry of pork meat and its byproducts from areas affected by the hog disease. Moving on to business, Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III urged Japanese investors to invest in the Philippines and take part in the country's shift to a new and better post-pandemic recovery. The Dominguez stressed that business partnerships with Japan can be strengthened in the areas of infrastructure development, manufacturing, digital technology, renewable energy and research, and development activities. He showcased the Philippines' brightening economic prospects supported by a strong financial position and the Duterte administration's game-changing initiatives. With COVID-19 infections declining amid the Philippines' scaled-up vaccination drive, Dominguez reiterated that a full reopening of the economy can happen by the onset of the new year. Dominguez thanked the government and the people of Japan for helping the Philippines battle the pandemic. He said Japan has been a strong supporter of the Build, Build, Build program, including the country's first ever underground rail system, the Metro Manila Subway. Japan is also the Philippines' top export market. Up next, the PCOO's 2022 budget gets the Senate's nod as it assures no contract of service personnel are employed as trolls. And the Philippine Sports Commission calls for a ceasefire of tirades between pole vaulter EJ Abiena and his home federation. More stories when the PNA Newsroom returns.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng coronavirus disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. There are no trolls working in the Presidential Communications Operations Office. Secretary Martin Andanar gave this assurance as the Senate approved the proposed 1.63 billion peso budget of the PCOO and its attached agencies for 2022. During the plenary budget deliberations on Tuesday, Andanar answered the query of senators, particularly Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon, on whether there are online trolls among the contract of service personnel of the PCOO. Andanar also apologized for the deferment of the budget deliberation on Monday night, following the supposed inappropriate behavior of Apple Production Unit Sales and Marketing Manager Dominic Tahon while attending the session online. The senators called out Tahon for drinking alcohol, although the Apple official explained that he only had a sip of cola. Tahon, however, apologized for his perceived disrespectful conduct. The voluntary drug tests being done by some presidential bets will not stop the Philippine National Police from investigating the possible link of a candidate to illegal drugs like cocaine. PNP Chief General Leonardo Carlos nevertheless welcomed the initiative of these bets to undergo voluntary drug testing. Carlos reiterated that while the law does not require a mandatory drug test for those running for public office, the organization will support such measure once it is implemented. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso is the latest presidential candidate to undergo voluntary drug testing. He tested negative based on his results released Thursday morning. On Monday, Senator Panfilo Lacson and his running mate Senator Vicente Soto III yielded negative results for shabu, cocaine, ecstasy, and other narcotics. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos also underwent drug testing at a private hospital and furnished a copy of the negative results to the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency or PDEA. His running mate, Vice Presidential Bet and Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio also said she tested negative for illegal drugs use on Wednesday. In Agusan del Sur, school children in Sitio Durian, Barangay Lucac, San Francisco can now go to school in a closer place with the help of the town government and the private sector. The Agusan del Sur Police Provincial Office formally turned over on Tuesday a two-classroom building intended for grades 3 and 4 pupils in the town. Provincial Police Director Colonel Ruben de los Santos said the initiative is part of the advocacy of the ADSPO through its School Mo, Sagot ng ADSPO program. The school building will benefit around 60 pupils, including those from the indigenous Manobo community in the area. The ADSPO will continue to reach out to other far-flung communities in Agusan del Sur under the School Mo Sagot ng ADSPO program. Meanwhile, a member of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority has filed Parliament Bill 150 seeking the establishment of the Bangsamoro Medical School. Member of Parliament Susana Anayatin said her bill seeks to provide accessible, affordable, and comprehensive medical education. Anayatin said her proposal aims to serve Bangsamoro young people from different territories in BARMM and may extend its services to other existing medical schools in Mindanao. 3 insurgency-cleared villages in San Carlos City, Negros Occidental will soon have better access roads thanks to the Barangay Development Program of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC. The concreting of farm-to-market road projects was launched in the mountain barangays of Codcod, Nataban, and Quezon on Tuesday. Construction of the road projects will start this December. Local officials led by Mayor Renato Bustillo and 1st District Representative Gerardo Valmayor Jr. held separate groundbreaking rites. In his message, Bustillo acknowledged the efforts of the national government in President Rodrigo Duterte's Executive Order 70, which created the NTF-LCAC. He underscored the responsibility of barangay officials to uphold loyalty to the government and keep their places free from the influence of the CPP-NPA. Brigadier General Inocencio Pasaporte, commander of the 303rd Infantry Brigade, said the realization of the BDP projects is seen to boost the livelihood of the people in these barangays and help resolve insurgency. And in sports, the Philippine Sports Commission says it has been talking with the Philippine Athletics Track and Field Association, or PATAFA, and EJ Obiena regarding their ongoing spat. This as the PSC assures it is not taking the mess between the two parties lightly. In a statement, the PSC said it has been holding dialogues with both parties way before Chairman William Ramirez spoke on the issue. Ramirez on Sunday said the PSC would only step in when it is appropriate. In the meantime, the PSC called on PATAFA and Obiena not to post statements as it looks to resolve the row as soon as possible. It said it is their duty to mediate in the interest of truth and to stop the damage caused to the country's image in the international sporting world. Meanwhile, the Senate brought back the PSC budget to the plenary on Tuesday after Ramirez met with Senators Pia Cayetano and Joel Villanueva. The PSC assured the public that protecting the national athletes remains a top priority. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. Strong words from the Philippine Defense Chief as he asserts that the Ayungin Shoal is part of Manila's exclusive economic zone, slamming China's latest remarks urging the Philippines to remove its ship from these waters. The Health Department says no serious adverse events have so far been reported from the rollout of COVID-19 booster jabs as the Philippines steps up measures to contain infections, which have been seeing a decline for the past days. No learner left behind, the Department of Education is sparing no effort in addressing issues hounding basic education following a World Bank report showing that most Filipino children are unable to read by the age of 10. And the police force will not hit the brakes on its efforts to go after drug-linked candidates, even as presidential bets undergo voluntary drug tests. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And it is exactly 30 days or 1 month to go before Christmas, and that really isn't a very long time. So let us prepare for the holidays and stay safe. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.